Do you actually have free will? Are you actually the person behind all the decisions that you make and all the actions that you take? Or are you just following some predetermined script? Like you're following some type of play and acting it out? Or even worse, are you being brain controlled?
NANI?
Manipulated and played with, like those ants that stick their butts up in the air like they just don't care, waiting for a bird to come and think that they're a berry, eat them, and then eventually the parasites that had zombified the ant beforehand can now reproduce in the bird's stomach for the bird to poop out more parasites and then them to infect more ants, and the cycle continues. Do you really have free will? You might be thinking, of course I have free will. I think, therefore I am. I am separate from everyone else and I can do whatever I want to do. I have my own spirit, I have my own mind, separate from my body. I think, therefore I am, therefore I have free will, so go screw yourself. That's probably what you're thinking. Now trust me, I want to believe this as well, but there has been a growing theory that we don't actually have free will and we're actually being controlled, not by some omnipotent god or some puppeteer, but by our very own genes. Wait, what? Let me just explain through a few examples. This is more like a thought exercise just because I found this kind of theory really entertaining. So let's just see where it takes us, right? I'm not fully on board. I just want to see what you guys think, and I want to see all the opinions that are out there. So for our first example, let's look at insects, specifically bees. We all know that bees will literally off themselves in order to try to protect the hive, right? And as a bee, I'm sure that as a bee, you would know that your little sting is not going to do jack anything to a big bear, right? It would require not just you, but a fleet of you guys, like a bajillion of you guys, to even start to annoy the bear. If enough bees come together and start doing the same thing, then maybe they'll get somewhere and maybe fend off the bear in order to protect the hive. So for the sake of the hive, they are gladly willing to perish. All of them except one, and you can probably guess which one, right? It's the queen bee. No, not Beyonce. The queen bee. If the queen bee dies, then one of the worker bees or one of the other like minion bees will become the queen bee. Now, I just googled this and it's actually really interesting. So apparently all they have to do to become a queen bee is they just have to change their diet. Chicken, broccoli, rice. In before bees on keto. But anyways, so according to Google, they eat something called like royal jelly as opposed to bee bread, and then royal jelly has like a different makeup, and then that somehow like alters their epigenetics, and then they grow ovaries, and then they become the new bee queen. Super cool. Random tangent aside, but the point is that the single bee that is fertile and has the capabilities of creating more genes ain't trying to die, whereas all the other ones are perfectly fine with dying. Additionally, something to note is that all the bees of a hive are genetically identical. It's almost as if the purpose of a bee's life is just to maintain the hive, and the hive is there in order to pass off the genes to the next generation. Interesting. The survival of not the bee itself, but of the genes of the bee. You might be going somewhere. And actually, I just thought about it. Bees to a hive is kind of similar to like immune cells, like immune system cells to the human body. Kind of, sort of, like I'm sure there's an analogy there somewhere, but I don't know. I'm not a scientific mind. I don't know. But this is also similar to ants too, right? So ants, apparently there are some ants. There's a worker ants, there's a queen ant, right? But there's also some ants who just spend their entire lives just hanging on the doorstep of their anthill, just using their abdomens as a food storage. So they just their entire purpose of their life is to just hang on like the ceiling, and then use their abdomens to store food. The idea of free will must definitely not apply to ants, and probably not bees either. Oh, those are just insects. Do they even think how they don't have free will? I mean, like, I'm a human. You're comparing me to an insect? Fine. Okay, let's look at a bigger animal, right? Do you think that bigger animals like zebras or like deer or whatever, do they have free will? I mean, for sure, you know that they don't want to die, right? No animal wants to die, and they seem to be alert enough to care for their own individual survival. I mean, they're not as smart as humans, but like compared to like maybe like a dog or a cat, which I mean, like cats for sure have free will. Cat like you try taming a cat, impossible. But I mean, like, yeah, I buy that, like zebras and antelope and deer, they have free will. Do they? Let's think about this. Okay, so when you're watching National Geographic, right, and you see, oh, like they're filming the cheetah or like the mighty lion or tiger or whatever, right, and they're stalking their prey. They're chasing after a herd of zebra, and then for they always run away in a herd. You ever notice they always run away in like a herd? They're just like a block, like a continuous block, just running away. And then eventually the tiger or the cheetah or whatever, they catch onto one of the slower ones, devour it, and then it gets full and lazy and lethargic. I don't even know if cheetahs eat zebras. I'm just assuming like it's one of those predatorial felines attacking one of those other like zebra or something like that. But the zebras or their prey are always running away in herds. But correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't your survival chances individually increase if you just scatter, right? Because if you just scattered, right, then first of all, the moment like one zebra like goes off, right, if it notices that that predator is no longer chasing it, it can just save its energy, and then it can just start grazing and eating more to replenish its energy, while the rest of the herd has to deal with that mess, right? So it makes sense, like logically and evolutionarily, for the zebras to scatter so that they can save their energy in case another predator comes. But they don't, and they're always running away in herds. You know what's special about running away in herds? It's that the slower ones, or maybe the most genetically unfit member of that species, gets offed and gets fed to the cougar, tiger, jaguar, or whatever. Whereas the more genetically fit individuals are able to stay alive and pass off their offspring. Once again, they're trying to improve their genes rather than just trying to stay alive. That's interesting. I'm sure if I was the slowest zebra, I would know I'm the slowest zebra, and I would not be trying to be like in the back. Like I'm sure they always get made fun of. I'm sure they're always getting left behind, literally. But I'm sure that I would not want to be eaten, and I would try with all my might to not be dead last, or to find some type of way to avoid being dead last. I'm just saying, like literally, if you had free will as a zebra, you would probably figure this out, and you would, you would probably figure this out and book it to a different direction. Like even if not like by my own accord, evolutionarily, like in order to survive, that would be something I do. But it doesn't do that. Instead of doing what is better for the individual, it's doing what is better for the species, or what is better for its own genes. Sacrificing itself for the better of its species and the improvement of its genes? Interesting. Let's continue. So far I just talked about stupid bugs and stupid animals, right? So I am an intelligent human being, right? I think, therefore I am, as I said before. And I guess you're right. The fact that you can even think and contemplate whether or not you have free will is proof enough that we should have free will. You have free will. You can do whatever you want. So I just finished reading The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt, which, side note, like his books are really, really, really interesting, right? So The Happiness Hypothesis and The Righteous Mind. Righteous Mind I actually liked more. It's a later book, but it has to do with politics, and I'm not trying to get canceled right now. So we'll just focus on Happiness by Hypothesis. I highly recommend reading both the books. I'll leave the links down below, but let's just focus on Happiness Hypothesis. In the early 2000s, there was this school teacher who, he was okay before, but then suddenly he just had this change of heart. Like a switch turned on, and then he just became like the scummiest scum. He deserved a level of hell that Dante never even visited yet. Like this dude was just like scummy, right? Like he was making like sexual advances towards his stepdaughter. He was thinking about essaying the landlady. Like his wife divorced him because he just became a mega weirdo. He lost his job because like no school wants to hire like this dude that's just harassing every female in sight. Other than that, he was kind of normal. he just seemed like a creep, disgusting like PDF file. But one day he had a headache, and then he went to his closest hospital to go get it checked out. On the way there, of course, he was just looking at all the nurses and like harassing them as well, right? But they found out he had a tumor in his brain. They removed the tumor, and then he unscummified. No more sexual advances. No more creep. No more harassing people. He became normal. What? So they removed the tumor, and then he lost all urges to be a creep? So you're saying that this tumor completely removed his Wait. So you're saying that his tumor kind of took over his free will, or maybe his free will decided to listen to the tumor and change what the free will wanted to do, and then later when the tumor was removed, the free will was like, I don't need to listen to the tumor anymore. So then he became normal again and reobtained his normal free will. But then when the tumor grew back again, his free will was again affected by this inanimate tumor? Huh? Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe everything he thought, everything he did, every choice that he made was predetermined in a mind that would make that choice, that would take that action. And then this random tumor that grew and then changed followed all the plans, edited the script, changed what was predetermined for him, changed his fate, and changed what he wanted to do to be this creep. And then later, when it was removed, he erased all those edits to the script, and then he became normal again. And then later, when it grew back, it edited the scripts again. So it is kind of like predetermined. So wait, if just a tumor can affect your quote-unquote free will, does that mean that everything is predetermined at birth? And the only thing that's predetermined at birth really is your genes. So your genes wrote the script for how you think, how you act, what you do, what decisions you take? Huh? And I'm sure that, and he's born the same way that everyone else is, so is everyone else also following this predetermined script? And maybe we don't actually have free will, but we're just following and taking cues off of a script written by our genes. And in a way, we're just a robot running a software program to dance monkey dance. If anything that has free will, would it be the cancer cell that just said, screw it, I don't want to do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to do my own thing? And if a cell can develop free will and just screw the script, is a human able to do that too? I'm not telling you to become a cancer, right? Those people are crabby. Get it? But can we break away from this predetermined fate that's written in our genes? I don't know. What the hell do I know? I'm not science. I'm not a psychology, whatever, major history. I don't know. What biology, psychology? I don't know what this is, but that ain't me. I'm just some dude on the internet. Bye. Future Jason here, which I guess is technically the past if you're watching it after it doesn't matter. Anyways, so there's a few things I forgot to mention, which specifically are the studies and case studies on twins versus other regular siblings. And these are studies on twins that have been separated at birth. Of the two twins, one goes to one family, another one goes to another family. And they've done these studies where even when you compare two twins that are separated at birth versus two siblings that are raised in the same household, those two twins are often more similar than the two siblings that are raised in the same household. So the two twins raised in different households are more similar than the two siblings raised in one household. So that's another case, or that's more evidence of how genes do really affect your personality and what you do, how you act, and the decisions that you take. So is it that genes do actually, or like how we act and our quote-unquote free will is actually predetermined by our genes? I don't know, but there is evidence that points to that fact or points to that case. So I don't know.